Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another reading. This AU is called Watch Out for the Lucky by Toomuchsunshine. And here's the first chapter. It was like pristine white quartz resting atop ash. The bright white and gold clashing in the dark, hardwood floors of his apartment in a way that made it impossible to miss. Green still had his hand resting on the front door, which he had just opened. He had stalled after seeing the letter that was quite possibly slipped under his door while he was at work. He went from tired after a long day to his heart racing as fast as his brain was trying to comprehend what the letter was. He knew, of course he knew, who the letter was from. The color and emblem wax seal gave it away. That, and the fact that Green had a drawer in his kitchen, the one furthest from the door, and closest to the floor, that had several of the same letters hidden under unused Tupperware. Green took the final step past the threshold of the door, closing it softly behind himself. He dropped his satchel bag on the floor, kicking off his shoes without looking away from the letter. With slightly shaking hands, he gingerly picked it up. He flipped around, hoping to possibly gauge what the contents said. Historically, each time he got these letters, they all had the same contents. A firm and professional denial of his original wish. Biting the bullet, Green sighs, breaking the golden wax seal. Dear G. Zelqua, it is our greatest honor to formally invite you to the audition to be the superhero Hawkeye's newest sidekick. Not only has your past action caught our eyes within the Hero Association, but Hawkeye has chosen you among others himself. Please see the attached documents and follow the instructions for the final judgment. Congratulations, and remember, eyes in the sky keep everyone safe. Green feels his eyes widen as he reads the letter. He was shaking, accidentally crumpling the paper in his hands. He lifts the letter closer to his face just to make sure that he's read it correctly. Then he read it again. Then one more time just to make sure. Flipping over the letter, he sees a list of requirements to bring to the audition and where to go. He sets the letter down on his kitchen counter, releasing a breath he didn't realize he was holding, and leaned over, running his hands down his face. He had been waiting for this moment for far too long. Letter after letter, and night after night sent and spent trying to get the attention of the association just for the small chance he would get recognized. This was his only chance. He can't lose this. He won't lose this. Not only would this be helpful for getting out of this horrible apartment, he could hear the dripping water from each faucet and the smell of musk and dust from around the room. While he understands that he's lucky to even be able to afford a roof over his head, the type of income the association can offer is more than enough to turn heads. But even more reason, they have information on all the goings-on in Hermitopia Empire. They have the one and only database that contains every known gang, underground network, and anyone who has ever been mentioned in a crime. Or at least he hopes they do. And that is his main and only reason for trying for this partnership. Taking a deep breath, Green dropped his hands, standing up straight. Folding the letter back up, he placed it in his back pocket. He had to get ready. The letter said he had to meet up at the Hero Center for his judgment tomorrow afternoon. It was very soon, but that wasn't surprising to Green. Every source that he's ever read about people being contacted by the association for a judgment, it was on very short notice. Green knew he would be ready for tomorrow, and that being said, he still had things to do tonight as well. It was a cool night in the city. A slight breeze coming from the southeast that kissed Green's exposed shoulders. Midsummer was treating the air kind. He fluffed his wings out behind him, feeling the wind through his feathers. It felt nice, having his wings out for the first time in a while. While hybrids were not new to Hermitopia Empire, evident by the wolf hybrid mare, winged hybrids were something rare. It was even rarer to have wings such as Green. Pure white slowly changes into a deep, rich red at the ends. Very recognizable, Green knows. But oddly enough, the public didn't seem to believe that his wings were real. Most news reported that they were just slightly high-tech prosthetics, which was honestly not the most outrageous explanation for his one-of-a-kind wings. There were several supers around that don't really have powers as much as they have the smarts to make themselves weapons. Most notably, 77 and Starvoid. Two completely opposite people, morally Green might add. The former being a villain and the latter being a hero. Both, though, made their own suits and gear. Every news station and their mother knew about the super technology that went into each of their suits. It was way beyond Green's level of comprehension, so he opted to leave both of them be, whenever they ran into each other. 77 was actually quite a nice guy despite being a villain. Once they both got trapped in a burning building during a fight with a famous hero, Tech, he offered him a mask to filter the smoke. Great guy, really. He didn't even poison the mask. The sides of Green's mouth quirked up in a smirk, flexing his wings behind himself. They had it all wrong, clearly. After all, it would have been significantly harder to get on top of the highest building in Hermitopia Empire without flying. Case in point, the man who was currently clambering over the edge and dropping onto his back in the gravel. He was gasping for breath as he had just run a marathon. Green had to guess that this makes sense for a man who just scaled a whole tower. Turning his head to watch said idiot, Green saw his normal patrolling outfit. A black, tight-fitted shirt with his signature blue and orange logo plastered in the center of his still gasping chest, and baggy black pants cinched around his calves. He had his bow clipped to his back in a way that would not be uncomfortable to lay on, and his quiver attached to his thigh. And of course dark-framed glasses that somehow never flew off his face, no matter how hard Green hit him. They were so dark that his eyes were completely obscured. The idiot on the ground was none other than the famous superhero on this side of the server, Hawkeye. What a joke. The two had a love-hate relationship, or, well, tolerate-hate relationship, in which Hawkeye seemed to begrudge Green's existence, happily leaving him be while occasionally having a polite conversation. These polite conversations typically happened while Hawkeye was trying to apprehend Green, but there was neither here nor there. Just because Hawkeye didn't mind Green and his vigilante business, it was illegal. And the hero did have a job to do after all. And Green would usually avoid the man in any and all instances, other than the occasional fight, of course. Heroes and vigilantes have a, to put it nicely, strange relationship. Most heroes hate them, while others see them as harmless hero wannabes. While being harmless is decisively not true, Green knows. Most vigilantes do try to do good with their powers that they've been given. Like most, Green finds himself on the fence. Then again, he is identified in the public and by the news as a vigilante himself. Maybe that means he should support the vigilante side more. Maybe it means he should stop lying about actually being a true vigilante. The hero lifted his head to look at Green, with what he could only hope was a glare before speaking. You could ask to meet me somewhere lower. The man pants. He threw his arm out towards the ledge as to accentuate his point. Green couldn't help but roll his eyes at the hero's dramatics. Are you always this? Actually, I already know the answer is yes. Green scoffed. Going back to scanning the streets below, it had been a quiet night. Normally that would be fine. Great even. It meant less work for him to do, and less people getting hurt. But just like a full moon to an ER, it feels like a bad omen when it's quiet. Green's feathers ruffled as he heard the hero shift behind him. He may have asked the hero to meet him here in good faith, but that doesn't mean he trusts him. He flicked his feathered ears when the superhero stood up, walking over, then slightly leaning against the ledge Green was perched on. He went to bend over to look down at the streets, but Green watched as his face got slightly pale. Then he quickly pulled back. He thought it before, and he'll think it again. Hawkeye's an idiot. Clearing his throat, Hawkeye smoothed over his clear, frightened features, replacing it with a charming smile. As much as I'm sure you asked to meet me here under the most altruistic intentions, I doubt you just wanted to watch the beautiful sunset together, so vigilante who won't give me his name, what's up? The hero asked, a bit breathy, not able to completely recover from both the climb and the height-related fright. If you wish to turn yourself in, I promise to tell everyone you put up a fight, he added, tipping his head into a smile. Rolling his eyes, Green took a moment to put his thoughts together, turning fully to the man. He couldn't see the hero's eyes through the sunglasses, but he wishes he could, especially as his smile gradually became wider and wider as he reaches back to pull the leather out of his short pockets. The dark-haired hero just looked confused at Green's lack of words, but turned his head to watch Green's movements. Whether that was a terrain thing or a curiosity thing, Green wasn't sure, but the look on his face was getting progressively more and more confused. Slowly, he unfolded the letter and stretched his hand towards the hero, urging him to take it, all while he still had a sly smile plastered on his face. You know, pesky bird, you're making me a bit nervous here, the hero laughed. Still, though, he pulled the letter out of Green's hand. He let his arm drop, continuing to watch the hero's face. Gradually, the confused look was overtaken by shock, then by what Green could only assume was grief. He couldn't resist barking at a laugh. Slipping off the edge, he sat on the ground with his back to the short wall, keeping his legs enclosed as he giggled. Green may not have liked the hero, but he knew he was going to have a good time with this. The famous Hawkeye, forced to take up an apprentice against his will, without his own knowledge, and the real kicker? A vigilante. No, they wouldn't. Not without my knowledge. You went out. Ugh. The hero so eloquently huffed. I don't need a sidekick, let alone a hooligan like you. He stomped his foot like a child. Listen, I don't mind you vigilantes doing some of my work for me, but this is too far, bird boy. He threw the leather on the ground, scowling at Green. His tune changed quickly from amicable to anger, typical for what Green expected of his reaction to be. Well, that's not a very kind way to talk to your new partner, Hawkeye. Green tutted back, standing. He walked over, gravel crunching under his feet, then picked the leather off the ground. He wasn't sure if he needed it to get to the audition, so he'd rather be safe than sorry. I thought you would have called me here to, turn yourself in or something. He crossed his arms over his chest, jostling the bow whose string stretched over his shoulder down to his hip. You never showed an interest in being a hero before, so why the sudden switch? We were literally fighting in Mississippi Park a week ago. You broke my arm! Guess they had a change of heart. Seeing as I did break your arm, maybe they see me as better than you now. Green shrugged with a smile, climbing back onto the ledge. Spluttering, Hawkeye dropped his arms, taking a menacing step toward Green. Ah ha ha ha! I'm gonna be your sidekick soon. No need to arrest me now. Green turned to face the hero, his back to the open air. I won't stand for this, you feathered menace! he growled, taking his bow off over his head. I'm sure they'd be willing to make an exception if I bring you in tonight. If you could catch me first, seeing as you are currently on top of the tallest building in the Hermitopia Empire. I'll see you tomorrow, Hawkeye. I look forward to it. And with that, Green fell backwards, feeling as the wind whipped through his hair and feathers. The last thing he saw before flipping over and soaring into the air was Hawkeye knocking an arrow, pointing it down at the side of the tower. He also felt the heat from the flame arrow whizzing past his leg. Looking over his shoulder, Green could just make out Hawkeye knocking another arrow, but as he was already turning into an alleyway, losing sight of the hero. Smiling to himself, Green turned his course back to his apartment, back to the city. He needed to pack the last of his belongings in preparation for when he has to move into the Association Hero Tower. And that is the end of Chapter 1.